Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
Tax burden for Jamaicans and a warning that it will devastate the working class. Our top story in the Caribbean Newsline for Friday, March 10th. From the CMC News Centre in Bridgetown, I am Dawn Paris. Good evening. Jamaica's Finance Minister Audley Shaw has announced a raft of tax increases that will see residents paying more for fuel, tobacco, alcohol and electricity. He announced those and other tax measures as he delivered the budget on Thursday. Together, they are expected to earn the government $13.5 billion in revenue. But that still leaves a $27 billion funding gap, and Shaw says government will again return to the National Housing Trust for $11.4 billion, while an additional $3.9 billion will come from a revised property tax system. The Finance Minister also noted that from April 1, approximately 400,000 Jamaicans will no longer pay personal income tax as the threshold is increased. But the opposition People's National Party, the PNP, is not happy about the tax package. PNP's spokesman on finance, Dr. Peter Phillips, also a former finance minister, said it would have a devastating impact on the working poor. And opposition leader Portia Simpson Miller said in a statement on Friday that the package is unbearable, unconscionable, and a betrayal of the trust of the Jamaica people. Minister Shaw thinks otherwise. Vashan Brown of TVJ News reports.
Audley Shaw says the tax package is in line with the principle brought into by the International Monetary Fund, which is a move from direct to indirect taxation. He says the Jamaican circumstances require this form of taxation.
Circumstances that include high levels of tax avoidance, high levels of tax evasion, that the way to collect taxes in this country for now is to go the indirect route, to go consumption taxes, where everybody, a large number, pay a small amount, little by little. And that's what we are doing. And it is less burdensome. At the end of the day, it is also less burdensome on the individual taxpayers.
But there is concern about the ripple effect of the tax package and the possible impact it will have on the most vulnerable, the poor.
We don't anticipate that there will be any significant dent into those who are marginal in society. Well, that's why we have significantly ramped up our conditional transfers by almost 50%, which is unheard of. It's a significant ramping up of enhancement of our social safety net.
Yesterday, the opposition described the package as unjust, saying the government is simply trying to fulfill an election promise.
Over in Grenada, the latest opinion polls show that the ruling New National Party would win if Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell called fresh elections now. The poll conducted by the Barbados-based Caribbean Development Research Services, CADRIS, says it appears that the NNP is enjoying the same level of popularity as in 2013 when it was returned to office. The NNP won all 15 seats in the last general election, and pollster Peter Wickham tells CMC News that the NNP is currently riding that wave of popularity due mainly to the unpopular opposition.
Grenadians are unhappy with the level of leadership that has been provided by both Tim and Thomas and Nazenberg. Tim and Thomas and Nazenberg are part of the same conversation, they were part of the same government, and they were both leaders in that government. And I get the sense that Grenadians are not comfortable with what they have to offer at this time, and that seems to be the reason why the feeling is that they have no choice but to go back to the NDC. But as I said, this could be a momentary situation. One does not know what the NDC will be able to pull out in the year to come. That may change that reality.
But Wickham did say that the electorate is still concerned about the general state of the economy and employment opportunities.
It's not to say that these issues are not being dealt with, but I believe that they are still foremost in the minds of people, that these are the major concerns. And the fact that they would have these concerns but still be supporting the NNP government suggests that they believe that the NNP is better positioned to deal with some of these issues. The national swing, as I said, measures about 4%. I think that is also an interesting finding. But the greater issue is the level of confidence in the government, and also the preference for the leader. And right now, Dr. Mitchell is well ahead of Senator Burke in relation to the leadership.
The state entity mandated to develop and market Trinidad and Tobago's tourism product and improve the sector is being dissolved. It was announced on Thursday that the Tourism Development Company is being replaced with two separate companies, one for Trinidad and the other for Tobago. Elizabeth Williams of TV6 News tells us more.
Speaking at Thursday's post-cabinet media briefing in Tobago, Tourism Minister Shanfa Kajo said the decision to dissolve the TDC follows a review of the entity.
And so it is in that light that this decision was made today after the review was done, as we looked at the different structures for the management of tourism in Trinidad and Tobago. Any serious tourism destination needs to have basic standards. Right now in Trinidad and Tobago, right now in the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago is the only tourism destination that doesn't have a regulatory authority or basic standards that are mandatory.
As for improvements to the tourism industry as a whole, Minister Kajo said an agreement has also been made for the establishment of an entity to deal with regulation and licensing for the tourism sector.
You are well aware, a couple of weeks ago, the Tobago House of Assembly would have made the announcement about establishing a new tourism development agency to treat with and to focus on the development of tourism in Tobago. So this decision also honors the decision of the Tobago House of Assembly.
In other news now, head of the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, SEDEMA, says the region needs to marry disaster risk management solutions with modern technology. And he's calling for a balance to be struck between legislation and its enforcement and a reshaping of cultural norms that affect disaster risk management and sustainable development. CMC's Nicole Best caught up with him at the 5th Regional Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction in the Americas held in Montreal, Canada, and she files this report.
Ronald Jackson was a panelist in a forum discussing the linkages between disaster risk reduction, climate change, and sustainable development at the 5th Regional Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction in the Americas. In an exclusive interview with CMC News after the discussion, Jackson said the older folk in the region knew what to do to survive and bounce back with minimal damage from major events like storms and earthquakes, but he laments its disappearance.
To the point where now we're talking about building resilience, reintegrating these concepts and ideas, and we're talking about knowledge, but a lot of our knowledge is simply focusing on the new science without integrating some of these indigenous knowledge and experiences and coping practices of our communities.
The SEDEMA head told CMC News that even as the region talks about building resilience, the focus is mainly on modern science, adding that the education sector is primarily responsible for marrying the indigenous solutions with the new science. Jackson said societies and governments now need to strike that balance between legislation and enforcement, looking at culture and how to reshape cultural norms using education as the vehicle.
Unfortunately, our society has drifted so far from where we were as I would say, a society that understood risk and had a culture of risk back in the early days of our early development, to a society that is now trending a little bit away from that understanding. And in that regard, we're going to have to use the carrot and the stick approach. We're going to have to apply incentives and disincentives in using tools like tax relief where we can for better practices. So you reward a developer who wants to put things that is going to create jobs, but put it in such a place that you're going to reduce risk.
From Montreal, Canada, Nicole Best, CMC News.
And coming up in Caribbean Newsline, one of the most high-profile criminal cases in the Cayman Islands ends with a university president being convicted of fraud and deception. Stay with us.
Have you or someone you know been diagnosed with diabetes? If so, it is important that you know about Glucerna. Glucerna is a nutritional supplement for people with diabetes and contains Carb Steady, which helps minimize blood sugar spikes. Manage your diabetes with Glucerna. Glucerna, nutrition for people with diabetes, designed for you.
Straight out of the bodacious and beautiful culture of the Caribbean comes a music and talent competition like no other. Brace yourself for the exciting, entertaining, extraordinary, and new reality docuseries, Icon of the Islands. The story begins in the breathtaking backdrop of the U.S. Virgin Islands. Every year, this is where a wide and diverse range of contestants of all ages and backgrounds audition for a wildly popular and prominent local talent competition. And the ultimate goal for each contestant is to win.
I already have my favorites, but my favorites may not prevail tonight.
Some moments will bring performers to their knees, while some performances will bring fans to their feet. Get ready to see which star will be the last one shining in the spotlight as the stars align this season on Icon of the Islands.
Awards for Excellence invites nominations for its next awards cycle in the categories Arts and Letters, Science and Technology, Public and Civic Contributions, and Entrepreneurship. Join the growing college of distinguished laureates from throughout the region we've honored in the last decade. Visit www.answercaribbeanawards.com for forms and instructions. Nominations close on March 31st.
Welcome back. In what has been described as one of the most high-profile criminal cases in Cayman Islands history, the former president of the University College there has been found guilty of stealing nearly $500,000 during his tenure and lying about having a doctorate to get the job. After 3 days of deliberation, a grand court jury on Thursday found Hassan Syed guilty on all 12 charges, including theft, fraud, and deception. The judge told the court that Syed was an intelligent, persuasive, and deceitful individual whose 18-month presidency was obtained by dishonesty. He will know what punishment he will face after both the prosecution and defense submit their sentencing arguments. Syed's application for bail in the meantime was refused, with the judge pointing out that he had fled the jurisdiction before when his lice caught up with him, and he has the wherewithal to do it again. So he will await sentencing in jail. In the face of changing immigration policies in the United States, Guyana is bracing for a larger number of its citizens being sent back home. And the government has announced plans to implement programs aimed at reintegrating those deportees into the society. Citizenship Minister Winston Felix says while the government has no control over who's deported, it will continue to engage the relevant authorities in the countries from which Guyanese nationals are being deported. Royden James of HGP Nightly News tells us more.
Minister Felix did not get into specifics of the changing immigration policy of the United States, but made clear that even before the recent changes, Guyanese were being sent back from that country for various reasons, including breaches of the U.S. immigration laws.
We have been dealing with that all the time. The only new thing that might happen is the numbers which might be coming. That's the only thing that would be new. The numbers. But we have our fair share every year, sometimes twice a year.
As it relates to Caribbean and Guyanese nationals being sent back or refused entry into those countries, the minister said that too has been a concern which Guyana had to put up with for years.
Yes, there are deportations, but the large numbers we have, every week are more people who attempt to enter the country and they were refused leave the land. But we have deportations going on all the time. All the time. I just don't want to create a situation that dramatizes these returning Guyanese who've had unfortunate experiences in other countries. I don't want to dramatize it, but it is good to put the issue to the public as it is.
The minister pointed out that plans are afoot to ensure that when persons face unfortunate circumstances abroad, they can return to Guyana and contribute to society meaningfully like every other citizen.
But I know that initiatives, there are private initiatives being taken to assist in resettlement of what they call, well, not deport, involuntary migrants, right? There are programs developing privately, and government is also considering the best ways to assist these involuntary migrants to resettle in Guyana.
Just last December, 20 Guyanese were deported by United States authorities following various periods of incarceration for a range of criminal offenses.
Exporters from the OECS and Martinique are meeting in St. Lucia for the 2017 Specialty Caribbean Expo. The March 9th to 12th event is being hosted by St. Lucia's Trade Export Promotion Agency. Prime Minister Alan Chastanet told the opening it's an opportunity to strengthen economic ties among participating countries.
That if we are going to be competitive in the world, we must learn to do so without trade agreements. We must learn to do so by doing things differently and by having products that are unique and are desirous. But it means we now have to start focusing on the business of what we're doing. And we must understand where our weaknesses are and what we have to do to turn those things around. So one of the most important aspects of manufacturing and what we're talking about here today is cost. And there are some costs that we have that we're not going to be able to do much about.
And ahead in Newsline Sport, the West Indies head coach confident that the struggling regional side can be transformed into a winning unit. Sport is next.
Barbados, renowned for its pristine beachfront and fantastic weather, continues to leave quite an impression on newcomers to the island and returning visitors. The Caribbean island, quite popular as a vacation hotspot, is not only beautiful due to its natural aesthetics. The island of Barbados continues to grow in popularity because of unique connections developed with our people, our culture. We can't wait to welcome you.
Round Hay Pharmacy now has 2 locations to fill your prescriptions promptly and efficiently. Our branch at One Accord Plaza is open daily, including Sundays and bank holidays. Also, check out our new drive-through location at Warren's Healthcare Complex in Michael, the first and only drive-through pharmacy in Barbados. For more information, call Round Hay One Accord Plaza at 421-7863 and our new drive-through branch at Warren's in Michael at 424-5574.
Come play at the 50th edition of Antigua Sailing Week. Not a sailor, not a problem. Chase the race from the best beach locations and party in the ocean. On our beaches, a different one each day. Take a drink, take another. Hula, play, dance in the sand. Dance to reggae, to soca, to the beat of your own drum under the moonlight. 7 beach days and party nights. Come play at the 50th edition of Antigua Sailing Week.
April 29th to May 7th, 2017.
Are you up for the challenge?
Continue with sports, and West Indies head coach Stuart Law believes there is enough ability within the West Indies setup for the struggling regional side to become a winning unit. The one-day side suffered a whitewash in the 3-match series against England on Thursday after going down by 186 runs at Kensington Oval in the final match. But Law said even though he's disappointed, there were enough signs to suggest a turnaround could be achieved.
First glimpse of what I've got to work with, and some very encouraging signs. I thought we bowled particularly well throughout the series today. Probably wasn't a great bowling performance, but the first 2 were, acceptable. Our batting, we had guys getting starts, not anyone going on getting big scores, and I think that's an area where we need to improve. But look, to be honest, not pleased with the result, but very, very happy to see some guys who have actually got something to give out in the cricket field, and they want to be there to do it.
West Indies lost back-to-back games at the Vivian Ritters Cricket Stadium in Antigua to concede the series before producing what was easily their worst performance to suffer their heaviest ODI defeat to England. They struggled in all departments, with only Jonathan Carter and Jason Mohammed managing over 100 runs and posting half-centuries. Off-spinner Ashley Nurse led the wicket takers with 6 scalps, but captain and seamer Jason Holder took his first wicket in the series in Thursday's final game when he finished with 3, while pacer Carlos Brathwaite and leg spinner Devendra Bishu both struggled. The squad boasts an average age of 26, and Holder, with 51 ODIs, is the most experienced player. But even with the palpable lack of experience, Law said he is content to work with the young players.
Yeah, and look, I'd like to see the guys that we have been, playing in this series get more experience as well, and you only get that from playing. You don't get that from sitting on the sidelines. Experience it's very difficult to buy on a shelf. You need the player to actually have lived the game, to been through the tough situations, and willing to work hard with the young crew to make them appreciate success as well. So it's a tough thing to just turn up and find. But I'm pretty confident that these young guys, that they've got something that burns within them about the game of cricket. They're really, really down right now, and they should be. But as I keep saying to them, and they keep saying it back to me, it's just got to get back and work hard. With hard work comes good things. So fingers crossed we can work hard enough, and we've got some good times ahead.
Still with cricket, Australian all-rounder Shane Watson has praised the captaincy of Darren Sammy as he gears up for another campaign in the Caribbean Premier League starting in August. Watson, the marquee signing last season for St. Lucia Zouks, now rebranded St. Lucia Stars, is expected to be a key part of the franchise's bid this year for their first ever CPL title. Speaking ahead of Friday's draft, the 35-year-old said Sammy had been crucial to the St. Lucia franchise's success last season, where they reached the playoffs for the first time ever.
Always played against Darren, so I never had a chance to really get to know him, away from the game as well. So to be able to be captained by him, certainly is a very charismatic guy, very a strong leader. Says things that need to be said at the right times. And on the field, he certainly absorbs pressure very well. He's a great decision maker under pressure, which we've all seen for the West Indies as well.
Watson had a decent outing last season for Zouks, scoring 287 runs at an average of 31 while picking up 12 wickets with his medium pace. He says he's hoping the trend will continue in this season of the competition.
The great thing is our squad's not really changing that much from last year. So we should be able to really continue to build on what we were able to build last year.
Barbados Pride will benefit from the inclusion of West Indies stars Jonathan Carter, Shea Hope and Ashley Nurse, but will miss West Indies captain Jason Holder, Carlos Brathwaite and opener Craig Brathwaite for the 6th-round game in the regional 4-day championship starting Saturday. All 6 players were members of the West Indies team, which suffered a humbling whitewash to England in the 3-match one-day international series, which wrapped up at Kensington Oval on Thursday. However, only Carter, Hope and Nurse will make the quick transition to the longer format to face Leeward Islands Hurricanes at the Oval, as Holder and the 2 Brathwaites have not been included in a 13-man squad named Thursday by selectors. Pride will be led by all-rounder Kevin Stout, and the team will also include current Test players Shane Dowrich, Roston Chase, Jumel Warrican and Miguel Cummings. Switching sports now, Barbados is looking forward to their friendly against Trinidad and Tobago Soca Warriors on Friday evening at the Atto Bolden Stadium in central Trinidad. It's the first time the teams will clash since their last outing in a World Cup qualifier back in 2011. Back then, the Bajans were handed a 4-0 drubbing. Ranked 155 on the official FIFA rankings, Barbados is hoping for a better showing this time around. Speaking to CBC Sports, the national team's technical director Michael Foster says his men are eager to take on the Warriors.
This morning, and
about 9 a.m. at the hotel, and we had breakfast. We had a training session last night before we left Barbados, which was, work on corners and various other things, set plays, and that went very well. We had a nice smooth flight into Trinidad. After breakfast, the players have been resting. They've been very disciplined so far, I must say. Regarding new players to the squad, we have 7 new players: Sharan Hoyt, Dario King, Akeem Hill, Tariq Highland, Kishma Primus, Omani Leacock, and Alvin Chapman. And as we move on, because we're gradually, introducing new players to the squad, we have a game in 2 weeks versus Martinique in Barbados, which I'm hoping the crowds will come out and see. And we'll be introducing new players who've been lighting up the Premier League, like Zico Edmi and Shaquille Bell. These players I expect to feature at some stage in that game.
Well, there's some sad news in the footballing world in Trinidad and Tobago as the daughter of a soca warrior passed away on Thursday. Reports reaching CMC Sports indicate that 19-year-old Nicola John, the daughter of former national striker Stern John, died of medical complications. Reports also indicated that her father was on his way to a practice session with the national team, which was preparing for the friendly against Barbados, when he received a phone call informing him that she was not well. The teen died at home later that evening. President of the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association, David John Williams, and head coach Dennis Lawrence extended condolences on hearing the tragic news. John played alongside Lawrence on the men's national senior team at the FIFA World Cup finals in Germany in 2006. Meantime, in Bermuda, a footballer who was in the national squad that competed in the CONCACAF Under-20 Championship in San Jose, Costa Rica last month, was on Thursday charged with the fatal stabbing of another player at the weekend. 19-year-old Mikhail Thomas, a defender for Premier Division side Devonshire Cougars, appeared in magistrate's court charged with the unlawful killing of 28-year-old Raymond Butterfield, who played for First Division club Wolves, and that killing occurred on Sunday. He was released on $50,000 bail and several conditions were imposed on him. Thomas is expected to appear before the Supreme Court next month. And that's the sport. We'll be right back.
Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
Round Hay Pharmacy now has 2 locations to fill your prescriptions promptly and efficiently. Our branch at One Accord Plaza is open daily, including Sundays and bank holidays. Also, check out our new drive-through location at Warren's Healthcare Complex in Michael, the first and only drive-through pharmacy in Barbados. For more information, call Round Hay One Accord Plaza at 421-7863 and our new drive-through branch at Warren's in Michael at 424-5574.
In a place where legends start, the beach is just the beginning. So live a little for the exhilaration and the color of every moment, where time is and life is a spirited event. Immerse yourself in the culture, the music, the people, the island. Love Antigua and Barbuda. Embrace an experience that leaves you breathless, from cricket to sailing week to carnival and more. Antigua and Barbuda, the beach is just the beginning.
A recap of the major developments of this day. Jamaicans hit with tax increases that the opposition says will devastate the working poor. And in sport, West Indies head coach Stuart Law confident the struggling regional side can be transformed into a winning unit. That's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sports around the clock, log on to CanadaNews.com. We'll be back here again on Monday. But from all of us at CMC News, thank you for being with us this week and good night. Have a safe and wonderful weekend.